Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. My name is MattMoore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by my guys, Bryan Fonseca. You can find him on Twitter and in the Action Network app at Bryan Fonseca NY. Does all sorts of Knicks coverage for the New York Post. You can check out his YouTube page at Bryan Fonseca for stuff about combat sports and WNBA and all sorts of great stuff. So make sure to check him out over there. Also joining me is Michael Fiddle at Fiddle's Picks, the maestro of the market. Going to give us the lowdown on where the market is moving, where it's going to go, so you can be ahead and get that tasty CLV. On tonight's show, we'll give you best bets for Halloween, October 31st in the NBA. On Friday, we have a full slate as it is the NBA Cup. We're going to talk about the Cup. We'll get into that. We'll talk about strategies for how to kind of look at this, the history of the Cup and kind of what we've seen. We'll also give you best bets, and we are doing our tonight for our DraftKings special. We'll be giving you best bets for NBA Cup MVP. Very excited to get into that with you here on Buckets. If you're watching at youtube.com/the Action Network, you should go ahead and give us a like and subscribe, but you should also in the comments, let me know what your favorite bet is for both the NBA Cup and for the games on Friday. Let me know both. We'll talk about it at the end of the show in open run and give you our thoughts on it. If you're listening on the podcast version, thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys listening. Give us a 5-star review and let us know on Twitter if you do enjoy the show. Just give me a shout out at HP Basketball. Okay. So instead of going over lessons from the night, because it was a short slate and the lessons are like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's very good at basketball and the
Ryan Rollins is Superman.
Yeah. I will say that's like one lesson for you is I didn't bet, like I stayed away from Warriors Bucks entirely. The minute that Giannis was ruled out, I was like, there's probably some value on Milwaukee here. The letdown spot is real, man. It just, especially these home spots. But yeah, Ryan Rollins is good. And it was Fiddle. I was too busy with stuff to kind of, to be able to react to it. And this is one of the hard things I think about the NBA is like, you have to be so locked in all the time to be able to react to news and think clearly in that moment, which is something I struggle with. But it's like, okay, the Warriors have spent the last week being told that they are the greatest team ever. They are awesome and invincible, and look what they did to the Clippers and all these types of things. And then they walk into this game, no Giannis. Like, it was just the most classic letdown spot imaginable. I still thought the Warriors would win, but there was probably value on the spread just based off of like perception. How did the market respond?
So I actually got lucky because I saw Eric Nem, the Bucks beat reporter, report that Doc Rivers said that he expects Giannis to play, and I saw Giannis enter the tunnel in a Minion costume with a smile ear to ear. And so I was like, oh, if he's showing up in costume and Doc Rivers is saying he expects him to play, Giannis is a go. I don't really have any opinion on this game. I can actually step away from my screens, take my dog on a walk, and the market goes Bucks way on all of that news. It goes from 3.5 to 3, and I modeled the game at 2.5. So I'm like, okay, if we finally get like the Giannis in news, probably goes to 2.5 and lands right on my number. Surprisingly, Giannis out. It goes all the way out to 7.5. So Giannis being worth, I have him at 5.6 points. So if I'm modeling this at Warriors minus 2.5 with Giannis in, you also have to factor in you're moving through some very valuable numbers. So it's not always just 5.6 blank on whatever numbers you're moving through. So it going out to 7.5 was like, yeah, that's the perfect move for it here, going through 5 numbers. And then they come out and Bucks win and hand it to them. So it always, injury related CLV is just as efficient as regular CLV. There's always this trope that people think that like, oh, injury. There is a point, Matt, where you're right. It goes too far, and you should probably play it the other way. That's why it's good to have some individual numbers on players. And this one, I didn't. If it went to 8.5, it probably would have been a buy spot on the Bucks. But it is just as good. It's just that you remember the losses 10 times more. When you have an amazing Warriors ticket today, and you get smacked in the face with a Ryan Rollins superhero performance, that one stings 10 times more than anyone that you get 2 points of line value and you just end up correct.
Yeah. Okay. So tomorrow is the NBA Cup. It begins. Love the courts. Courts are excellent this year. I'm looking forward to watching these games. I love watching these games. I'll be dialed in as my oldest is now old enough to take my youngest trick-or-treating around the neighborhood, which is a big win for your guy, like not having to go out in the cold and wander around in November weather in October when it's 30 degrees outside. Big win for your boy right here. So I'll be locked in on the NBA Cup. Fiddle, we talked a little bit about it over the summer, but I did want to circle back with you a little bit here on what are some strategies that you've found when you're trying to look for opportunities betting the NBA Cup, both nightly, in tournament, in the middle of the tournament on futures, those kind of opportunities. What's some of the strategy stuff for you to look at?
Yeah, so I think we're in year 3 of the NBA Cup. Is that right? This is going to be the 3rd season where it's. Yep. So I actually think in terms of the NBA, this is one where edges are still definitely to be found. And like we should be doing our homework. We should try and be thinking differently. We should be trying to apply some concepts maybe outside of the box. I've tracked everyone's schedule and alignment of games through their different groups, and I'm trying to find buy points and sell points within that. I'm tracking rest disparities in certain spots, so what teams are going to be on a 3 games in 4 nights and then head into a cup game. So I think just knowing even within the group what order the games come in is very important. Is if your hardest game is your 4th and last game and you have an ability to build a 3-0 lead and maybe with some very solid point differential, then you're going to be looking at like, oh, you might be at the final game with like, I just need to not lose by 30, right? And so you're going to find some good spots if you could pick off some B-level, C-level teams within their groups, if you know what alignment their schedule goes in. So that's some of the things that we can get into with specific teams. But I also think like, how are we going to target totals? That's obviously one where everyone's thinking about because of the point differential. Is this kind of like the playoffs where the winning team's not going to sit their starters before the losing team? They'll wait for the losing coach to wave their white flag before the winning team takes out their guys. Are they going to try and stretch leads down to the end? Are they going to play starters like it's a close game no matter what? I think a lot of that is team by team basis. So, or coach by coach basis too. So whatever you see, take note of early, like tomorrow. Let's say the Knicks play their starters even in a 20-point lead until 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Note that for the next few series of games that they play. So I would pick up team tendencies and target schedules.
Bryan, what have you kind of noticed about going through the cup, and what are some of the things you're going to be looking to do as the cup rolls on?
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty straightforward in terms of, if you like a team, always look at the MVP market, because MVP was the first thing I looked at probably weeks ago when we were already talking about NBA Cup before the season even started. Like, Detroit is a team that we talked about before we got on here, which we'll bring up again, but their first NBA Cup game is next week against the Nets, which we would all agree is pretty winnable. In general, they have a group where they can navigate through and potentially, be one of the top 2 seeds so that they could advance. And you know that if Detroit is going to be any threat to win the cup, Cade Cunningham is going to be their MVP. There's almost no other scenario where it's anybody else. The Lakers run, it was LeBron. The Bucks run, it was Giannis. Typically, it's going to be the best player who plays the best in these tournaments. You have some other teams where if you really like them, you may have to ask a little bit of a question. Houston's in the group of death, but if you do really like them to advance, you have Alperen Sengun and Kevin Durant to choose from. And it's going to be hard to get out of that group anyway. They're going to be at such long numbers. It's ridiculous. But Cade is somebody. I took a future on Paolo before the Orlando Magic forgot how to play Orlando Magic basketball. It looks like they relearned a little bit tonight against the Charlotte Hornets, but things like that, where it's more likely to be just the top guy. And you can find a lot of really tasty long shots on the market outside of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the favorite right now to win MVP. You could find a lot of interesting numbers, good numbers, valuable numbers on like elite NBA players, but that's because making it into the final 8 is difficult. Nonetheless, the final 4, not to mention obviously the finals itself.
Okay, so some thoughts from me on this. First, here's some insight from like covering the tournament, especially last year after guys kind of started to figure out what it was. Here was the general reaction that I got to from talking to people around the league and talking to players. You don't pay attention to it the first 3 weeks. You're basically just like, it's just like another game, right? The coaches might have a strategy and you kind of notice things are a little bit different, but in general, the players are not really, there's the motivational edge, I don't think is necessarily as prominent. The last week is when it's like, wait, so if we win this game, we can go win $1 million. All right, bet. That's the reaction. Like that's most of the reaction. Now, I do think that these games produce different types of results. Like it is a different environment. Some teams are more aware than others. Like even though I just gave you that, some teams are like, hey, do you guys want to go win $1 million? Because I'd like to go win $1 million and hang out in Vegas for a weekend, right? A general trend, the biggest trend, not biggest, a notable trend that I think should be kind of seen here is there's an edge on home dogs. In the tournament, home dogs are 28-19, 59.6% against the spread so far. And if you're just like, okay, because I always think that whenever you got a trend, you need like a logic point. I do think that this is notable. If it's like a random game, right? Why do you care? Especially, I think this matters if you're a home dog later in the cup because of what Fiddle talked about with the point differential. If you're like, hey, we're probably going to lose this game, but if we push, that's going to increase our chances of being able to get into Vegas. Like that decision will probably be made a good amount of the time. And also just like generally speaking, hey, they have an extra motivation for the money side of it. So 28-19, not a bad sample. Pretty good number there at 60% ATS. So just something to kind of keep in mind that home dogs are 60% ATS in the cup. The other one that I think is really interesting, I looked at over at Killer Sports, I looked at teams with a pace above 104. So this is, I looked this up historically. This is over the last 5 years, this is 75th percentile or higher in pace based off of this metric. Those teams in the cup specifically 27-17 to the over in those games. So I think that what that kind of shows is teams do play, I think, faster in the cup. I just think that everybody's got a little bit of extra motivation. And you're playing, if you're a fast team, you're going to play a little bit faster. If you're like, who is that? Tomorrow night, that's the Pacers, the Cavaliers, the Raptors, the Bulls, the Grizzlies, the Suns, and the Blazers. So got a lot of games tomorrow night. If you're looking at now, my best bet's an under on one of these games, but just something to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. The other thing, it is interesting to me the results because Lakers beat Pacers year one, Pelicans were in there, and Bucks were in there. Bucks have been to the cup both years, so they've made to Vegas both years of the cup, which makes sense. Giannis is good, right? But I also think like that's kind of interesting to kind of think about it from a motivational perspective. It's clearly not something the Bucks mind. Like the Bucks are not like versus the Nuggets. I think very much are like I think Jokic is like I don't want to deal with like an extra trip, and then we got to deal with the media, and there's all this ridiculousness. Like that does not sound like something Jokic wants. So I'm kind of skeptical on the Nuggets here in the cup. I'm not saying they're going to throw these games. I'm just saying like I don't think that there's like a hey, let's go do it. Let's go win the cup here. But one thing I think is notable is this is not an upset tournament so far. We've got 2 years, but this is just not. It's not an upset tournament. This is mostly the teams that are pretty good. Now, Lakers and Pacers, even Bucks last year were like teams that were pretty good, but not like awesome. Versus the West Final was Thunder Rockets. That's 1 and 2 at the end of the season. So the one thing I would say is like, we kind of thought maybe we'd have an opportunity to bet long shots in this tournament. That has not been how this has worked out. The bad teams do not make the Cinderella run to the NBA Cup. So something to keep in mind as we go forward. We'll do best bets for Friday in the association, and then we'll talk a little bit more about who we like for Cup MVP. All that coming up in just a little bit. But first, the Buckets podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook, and in partnership with DraftKings, Buckets listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. The crown is yours. Love pre-recorded ads. So authentic with how I present them. I can do better on those. All right. Let's do best bets for Friday in the association. We will start, as always, with our 3-star bets. Michael Fiddle, what do you got for me?
I'm going to go with the Lakers plus 2.5. You want me to go right into the cap with this?
Give me the cap, my man.
So Luka Doncic went from universally thought to be out to suddenly upgraded to questionable on the injury report. And he's dealing with a finger injury on top of a leg contusion. So it's a non-shooting hand finger injury and a leg bruise. I really think Luka's going to suit up. So I think if we're looking at the market right now and thinking which line still has the most chance to swing in your favor, it's going to be the Lakers. So I actually think this makes Luka probably 60 to 65 chance to go. And if we're doing probabilistic modeling, which is how you handle injury reports and injury values and line moves, this move from seemingly 5 in the market to 2.5, and Luka's spread value with LeBron out is 5.2 points. So if we're going to move, this is going to go now at 2.5. We've moved halfway. So we should see a pick'em, maybe Lakers favorited minus 115 to Grizzlies minus 105 on the money line. And so if Luka's active for this game, I think we still have another 2.5, 3 points of line movement coming our way. And I actually think there's a greater than 50% chance that he is. So I'll go with leaning on Luka to be back and back returning to form pretty quickly.
Yeah. What do we think? Do we think this line is a halfway, a Luka no or a Luka yes line?
It's literally 50-50.
You think it's a?
Because it went 5 to 2.5.
Okay.
And if he's worth 5.2, we have some wiggle room to keep going.
So this probably goes. This probably goes pick 'em juice Lakers if he's announced in, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be Lakers minus 115 on the money line, where Memphis just minus 105.
They don't do pick'ems anymore really on the spread, so I wonder if that'll be Lakers -1 or Grizzlies -1.
Yeah, we've had one pick'em all year. It didn't close at a pick'em. It just hovered at a pick'em. It was Portland versus Lakers earlier this week.
So actually, okay, this is interesting. Let's talk about that. So if we know that this has just been the case, and we've seen this in the NFL too. Like the market is just like, yep, we're not going to give you pick'ems anymore. You're going to have to pick a side. If we think about it that way, right? If this is, let's say that you're dead on, and it's Lakers minus 115 on the money line, right? Juiced slight to Lakers. If that's the case, but they're gonna pop the spread because they won't do the half point. It'll be Lakers -1. You're only getting 1.5 points of value here, even if the implied value is like 2, or 2.5 here. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Say that one more time. Walk through that one more time.
So we think that the natural adjustment on the line, based off of the halfway point, should be another 2.5 point move to pick them.
Yep.
They won't give you the pick them.
They'll make it Lakers -1.
It'll make it Lakers -1. So from that perspective, you're losing a point here because your CLV, your project, you still got 1.5 of CLV, right? Which is good. Like this line, if you're right and Luka's playing, this line should not be Lakers +2.5. It should be Lakers -1, -1, right?
Yep.
So, you got 3 now. I'm blind. You got
you'd have 3.5, but it's really it's like kind of an artificial 3.5. And the reason to explain why me and you both agree why I would go to Lakers -1 is probably because you're going to have a wave of Lakers action come in. Right as the news drops and as the books shuffle to lock the line and then reopen it, they're going to open it with their risk more heavily on Lakers. So they're going to want to make the Lakers slight favorites in case that wave continues to come. A bunch of people just chasing steam on the number. And so they'll invite the action back in on Memphis and give you the better number on Memphis. And the number 1 is, over the last 3 seasons, the 11th most common outcome in the NBA. So that's why, Matt, you see books just, hey, we'll flip around our liability and make it ones and different VIGs in different directions instead of just pricing this at a pick'em, because we don't really think this game's going to end on the 1. It has sub 10 of top 10 most likely NBA outcomes are not in this even on the 1. So let's use that rare key number, not a key number would be a better way to say it, to balance our books. And so maybe one book is hanging a -1 on one side and the other book's hanging +1 on the same side. It's really more about how the book has taken money. And so that's what I would factor in. And I would think it's Lakers -1 because I would think Lakers are consensus taking more money in the market.
Power rating hates this for the Lakers, but I just do not trust my number on Memphis right now. I just think it's like I've made all the injury adjustments in the world and I can't get the number to a place where I feel confident in it. I'm going to stay away, but I do understand like this is objectively getting value because I agree with you. You don't, how can I put this? Typically, it used to be you really could trust it. It's like, oh, if a guy was out and he was upgraded to questionable, he plays. That hasn't been the case this year. There's been a few where they're like, he's upgraded to questionable and he's still out. And that's really annoying to me. Like at least have your nonsensical updates have patterns, but no, not consistently. Brian, what do you think here on the matchup?
I think it makes a ton of sense given that Luka may play, especially. I feel like this is, Fiddle just getting ahead of the market, which is what he tends to do. So I do like it in that regard. And also as a consolation, if something goes left and Luka doesn't show up, Austin Reeves has been playing pretty damn good lately. So I don't mind it one bit.
Yeah, he's been incredible. Okay. Yeah. Let's go to Bryan Fonseca. What's your 3-star bet of the night, Brian?
Tyrese Maxey over 28.5 points. It says PRA here, just points. It's probably going to be 30 by the time you're listening to this. If you're listening to this in the morning, there's still 28.5 out there. It's going to go up. Tyrese Maxey and the Philadelphia 76ers are playing against Boston. From not be aware. And Tyrese Maxey did the thing against them the first game of the year where he exploded for 40. And I feel like this number is just a little bit too low given the way he's been playing. It's also, I think it should be Joel Embiid proof. Joel Embiid, assuming that he plays, which we can never fully assume. But even if he does, I'm not super worried about it. I think clearly it could affect VJ Edgecombe a little bit differently, but Tyrese Maxey, he's been with Joel Embiid long enough. He has a 40-point game with Joel Embiid out there, not looking great initially. Also has a 43-point game against the Orlando Magic. That was the game Joel Embiid sat. Last game had 39, and Joel Embiid actually played pretty well, and it was against the Washington Wizards, go figure. So I think this is Embiid proof. I think we're going to see points. I think Boston's defense has been shaky at best. That's probably putting it mildly. The backcourt specifically, and Tyrese Maxey has the perfect game to really expose that further. And just from an attempt standpoint, he's gotten up 101 field goal attempts in 4 games. So basically 25 a game. And on top of that, his free throw rate is almost half. It's almost half in terms of he's gotten to the line 46 times. So damn near every 2 field goals he takes, he's at the line once. On top of that, he's shooting really well in terms of percentages, specifically from threes at 47%. So it's a volume play. It's a Joel Embiid proof play. And I also think it's a numbers play because I do think this number could get to 30.5 tomorrow.
Hasn't missed his PRA mark one time this year, and he's cleared it pretty consistently. His PRA mark, because that was going to be that, I thought that being one of mine. His PRA is 40.5. His lowest is 43. He's gone over this in 3 or 4, like you mentioned. The Charlotte game, he only had 28 flat, but he has breezed over this in all of them. The PRA I think might give you a little bit of cover here, but I understand going in for the scoring.
Yeah, maybe. Look, and I just think he's going to have one of those seasons. Like I took a plus 10,000 or whatever it was for him to win the scoring title before the season started. Like I think this is something he'll be doing consistently. Embiid will be in and out of the lineup. VJ Edgecombe, who I loved before the draft, I think he's going to be awesome. I also understand he's a rookie, so there probably will be some ups and downs. Maxey is the one constant on this roster that I can trust. And it's going to feel like he may have to continue to average an insane amount of points and attack the way he has just to keep this team above water. But look, they're 4-0 so far, and he's the main reason why. And I think he's gonna find this Boston team is not right. So I think he's going to be able to expose them further.
Just got a big win over Cleveland. I still kind of think that Boston might be in a buy low spot a little bit.
I don't like the way Cleveland's looked this year.
Really? I think they've had, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I like the way that they looked, except for the 2 games out of 5. Cavs opening night was their offense. They just couldn't hit water. Their defense was actually really good. The Boston game was they had rattled off a bunch of wins, and Boston, that was a kitchen sink spot for Boston. So
I guess, yeah. And with Cleveland, to me, it's also, I guess I expected a little bit more out of their depth. I find myself watching them and being like, you kind of need another piece. And because of your tax situation, I'm not sure you're going to be able to get it. But that's probably more of a February question, because Kenny Atkinson does excel in player development, not to turn this into a Cavs thing. So I do think like one of the young guys could pop and be somebody, but they feel a little bit more thin than I expected so far.
They are my sneaky, they should take a chance on Domantas Sabonis team.
Ooh.
Yeah, they've liked Jared Allen forever.
Kenny loves him. Loves him.
Yeah.
Like,
so if you can figure out the money, which is hard, but I do kind of think that that's like a, and it's like, okay, can you defend at a high enough level with 2 small guards and Domantas? That's tough, but God, Evan covers for a lot. Evan Mobley covers for a lot. We'll see.
Also, shout out to Shane in the comments for recognizing the hat. 7-1 today in the Copa del Rey first round for Betis.
What is the hat?
Soccer team, Real Betis. You don't follow soccer at all?
Not even a little.
It's impressive how much Bryan knows about the NBA, given how much he also knows about other sports.
He knows so much about sports. Bryan just knows like every sport. Bryan knows a lot about, and has like good opinions and strong analysis on all of it. Bryan Fonseca and why. All right, my best bet for the night. Bulls Knicks under 234.5. I'm going to go ahead and give the 234.5 here because this is taking steam and it's heading south, which makes me feel better about it. So the Bulls, I love Billy Donovan for this reason and this reason only. Billy Donovan, the last 2 years has been like, you know what? Nothing really matters but threes. I can take this squad of Nikola Vucevic and Josh Giddey and Patrick Williams and Modest Bazelis, and we can figure out a way to defend at a high level because we're just not going to let you shoot threes. Like, if we just don't let you shoot threes and we take a lot of them, then what happens? And that really has been the model. The numbers on the Bulls are really interesting because they have the raw, one of the best defensive ratings in the league. Schedule adjusted and expected field goal adjusted, it plummets in terms of rating. The defense isn't that good. But a lot of that is because of they're allowing a lot at the rim, and that's fine because, again, guess what? This team consistently does not allow you to shoot the 3 ball. They are the number 1 team in opponent 3-point rate. To put it in perspective, Utah is allowing opponents to shoot 50% of their shots from 3. That's the worst in the league. Chicago is at 29.7%. 20% lower. Here's another one. Number 2 is Dallas, who's all the way at 34.7, 5 percentage points higher than the number 1 Bulls.
Jesus.
So Chicago's like, you can score all the 2s at the rim you want, but we're not going to let you get these high point totals up because of this. Now, obviously, like, pace has to be kind of like one of the factors in this, and Chicago is 8th in pace this season. But on that other end of that, you do have the Knicks, who are 23rd in pace. And particularly, they have just been very deliberate in how they approach the basketball. They are 26th in offensive possession length via dunks and threes. So you have kind of these 2 combo factors here. Knicks defense is actually grades out surprisingly better than I thought it was. They are 3rd schedule adjusted right now. And they are allowing a pretty high number of threes, but they are doing much better in terms of preventing shots at the rim. So this becomes like more of a jump shooting contest for Chicago, which I don't necessarily love from a scoring perspective. So I project this number. I decided to go ahead and start incorporating in-season numbers just for the totals, no power rating adjustments yet. I will continue to subject myself to being wrong about things for a little while longer. I make this way lower. I've got this a huge edge on this at 225. I just think this is likely to be more of a rock fight because I don't think they will let the Knicks will score. I don't know if the Bulls will. I think the Bulls actually might struggle here a little bit offensively. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bulls Knicks under 234.5. Fiddle, I'm curious as your thoughts on my play here.
Market's definitely heading in that direction. I think Mitchell Robinson being a full practice is a good sign for the Knicks' third-ranked schedule-adjusted defense to get a little better and to go against a team that likes to only dunk and shoot threes. So Hart being out there, OG being out there, Mikal Bridges being out there. The Knicks have always been one of those teams where opponent three-point percentage is lower than average. So if that maintains and they bring back Mitchell Robinson too, then yeah, their defense should be good. Any under right now kind of scares me though, because this whole league-wide scoring thing, and this could be a question I'll throw back to you, because totals is, it's not, I don't mean this from a results perspective, because all I care about is process. Right. From a process perspective of me trying to match the numbers that are closing on the screen, the reason why my 3 best bets today are all going to be sides is because it's been hard to kind of get to where the numbers are for totals, because there's so many threes, so much pace, so many free throws being shot right now in the league that I guess the question I would ask, Matt, is like, in modeling these things out right now, are we relying on a 9-day sample size of the season started and these teams having 4 games on their schedule? Or like, because I often use for the first chunk of the season some market rating priors and adjusting for off-season moves and these player values, and then I get to the number and I combine it with some data points early in the season, and then we'll hit a point where I'll say, okay, now I'm dropping off those preseason priors completely or partially and whatever, and I'm relying heavily. But are we already there? Because it feels like, is it just noise to only bake in 3-4 games of data into a model? Because that feels like insignificant and probably not trustworthy. And then if I include last year's end of season results and where numbers were, I'm 7 points off the number. And it's just like, well, that's just pointless at this point. Like now I just don't. So I'm in this spot where I'm just like throwing my hands up, and I actually think it's acceptable because a lot of times people in the betting world and betting content just want to seem like they know everything and want to seem smart about everything, but it's really just like, and historically I'll say if your model's 7 points off, it's pointless. So now I'm looking at my own model and going, kind of pointless right now. So I'm like wondering how I adjust for the totals this season. So I'm scared to play any under right now, but in this spot, it's my numbers lower and I see the reasoning.
So I mean, I love this question from a process perspective, and I think the answer is I'm gonna a power rating. I will start at 8 games in, and then I will just blend it where I'll have a 10% impact of current number power rating on the overall power rating. So it's 90% my preseason prior and 10% the in season. Totals, I think, are the one area where I want to be cautious with them. I have 2 today. I haven't played that many this season because of what you're talking about. I personally do not think that your year-over-year numbers depending on how advanced your modeling system is, and mine is not very advanced. If your modeling system is advanced enough to incorporate a lot of information, then great. But teams change so much. This is a big thing for me. I believe that every single year you have to be a new organism. Your team is a new organism. It's got different parts and components. You bring back the same roster, you might change an assistant coach, and you might have changes in your defensive structure or your offensive style. The Miami Heat have had like the same crew for how many years, but they're playing at a complete breakneck pace. Nothing about last year's Heat team has anything to do with this year's Heat team. Nothing. So trying to use that from a total perspective, I think is completely useless. Like, it's just, to me, it's not really relevant. I think the Heat power rating can have something to do with it because it's like the difference between the 2 teams, but style of play, which has so much of an impact on totals, I don't think so. So the large answer to your question is, to your like query, and the problem is like, yeah, like it's you should wait. You should be very cautious with totals. I saw this one because I was curious about it, and it was just like, I think this is a really good spot to get it on the fact that Chicago's defense is still underrated in the market. Like a 235.5 total is still kind of reflective of the idea that Chicago is a bad defense and the Knicks are going to be able to put up a huge number. And I think this is going to be way more of a kind of a grimy game. And so that makes the spot here individually relevant, but that to me is like where I'm kind of at. Okay, let's do the 2 stars and 1 stars. Let's go to Bryan next. And Bryan, give me a rundown on your 2 stars and your 1 star on the night.
2-star, Lauri Markkanen over 24.5 points. I feel like this is kind of a sucker's bet just because this number is really low. And I'm like, this is suspiciously low. Why is it only at 24.5? Have you not seen what Lauri Markkanen's been doing lately? They're also playing against Phoenix. That doesn't necessarily give me the most to fear about. But look, I'm just going to fall into it. I guess I guess I'm just going to take the number, right? Like this is another one that I would project to be higher, and maybe it moves in that direction. But 24.5, the way Lauri Markkanen has been playing, where else is Utah going to get that level of offense? They're playing against Phoenix, who doesn't necessarily scare me defensively. I think Dillon Brooks has already been ruled out of this contest. And that's another piece of this. Lauri Markkanen, by the way, we talked about free throw rate as it relates to Tyrese Maxey. Lauri Markkanen's is not far off, especially in the last 3 games where he's had 6, 17, and 12 free throw attempts. So it's the scoring at 3 levels. It's not just the jump shot making. In the first game of the season where he had 20 points, and it was the only time he's been under this number, he didn't shoot a single free throw. But since then, he's actually been getting to the line and scoring at all 3 levels with those free throw attempts. The volume, like Tyrese Maxey, although not to that extent, but the volume is also there because he's at 87 field goal attempts through these 4 games. And over the last 3 where he's gone crazy with 33, 51, and 32 points, he's at 23, 32, and 19 field goal attempts. 32 was in overtime and was against this same team, but was in overtime. But still, he's also shooting it well from 3, 40%. But that's not an ungodly number like 60% where you're betting on just a remarkable level of efficiency to maintain. Like Lauri Markkanen could do this, especially against this defense. So I like the matchup a lot. And I was surprised to see that it was only at 24.5. Maybe it moves, but I want to get ahead of it.
You're probably buying high, right?
Maybe.
You're probably buying high. One thing I would kind of like to know is if you, because he had 51 versus Phoenix in the prior matchup back on the 27th, 3 days ago. Mm-hmm. So I always I wish we had more data on how individual props perform. Like I want to be able to do trend search on this. Like I want to be able to have an idea of, okay, you just play the team and you put up 40 plus. How do you perform against your points prop in the next game if it's within a week? Because we know that it's hard to beat a team twice in the span of a week because the extra motivation in the course of an NBA season with very little motivation is present. But also there's individually, there's hey, so he killed us last time. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Like film room work of, hey, you got to sit down on his right hand. Like, what are we doing here, man? Right. Those little details can have a big impact on kind of shifting those type of things. So I wish we had more data on it, but on the other hand, 33, 51, 32. Lauri's pretty good.
And also with the NBA playing at the pace that they are, just collectively, the totals, which we just spent a few minutes on, and everyone hitting their overs. Lauri Markkanen, by the way, over the 51, 44 in regulation. And the way Boston and Phoenix have been and probably are expected to play defense for the duration of the year, Phoenix especially. I mean, are they going to come up with answers overnight on how to stop Tyrese Maxey or Lauri Markkanen? Like these are guys that just have to go. And they're in situations, they're in like team contexts where they just have to do this. Not necessarily get 50 points or 40 points every night, but they should be in the neighborhood of 25 and 29 as it relates to Tyrese Maxey that we're talking about. Like this should be where they live at consistently, so long as they're healthy, and so long as Joel Embiid, in the case of Tyrese Maxey, stays where he is.
Fiddle, this was Suns -1.5 on the prior game in Utah. So we've got a 2-point move on a home court, which I don't necessarily think is wrong. It's like a point each way for a week one, especially with Utah having a bigger one because of the altitude advantage. So I kind of get why that switch wasn't as much of a swing. I am just kind of curious. Like that's pretty rough. I do have this as an over spot. We'll probably be on the over. I do kind of think that -3.5 is a little heavy. Has there been any market movement on this game?
It's gone both ways. So there was a point at which it was Suns -4.5 when it like first opened. Then it went all the way down to 2, and now it's back to kind of 3,
Yeah,
3.5. At this point, I think it's Suns or nothing, because I don't think the adjustment is enough when you factor in team that lost and not enough home court and going back to the home court of the favorite. So it's, for me, this is not just enough towards Suns.
Yeah.
And I would be Suns or nothing at this point. But I also think this is a power rating up on Jazz early in the season too.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of figure out if the Jazz are just like, hey, they had a good first week. Or if we're gonna look back at Christmas and be like, remember when the Jazz were like fun and good for that week? That was neat. But then on the other side, this is also Phoenix, who has not been fun or good so far. I think I'll play an over on this. It's not gonna be one of my official plays.
Huge over movement on this one for sure.
I'm gonna play the over. I've got this one on in-season numbers. I'm at 245, so that's heavy. But Kevin, Phoenix has not been able to defend the level that I thought they would be able to, and especially with it being a cup game, makes a lot of sense here. All right, Fiddle, tell me your
my 1 star. Forgot to do my 1 star.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
This is a lean.
I just saw this. Oh my god.
This is a lean,
sir.
Pelicans first half +6.5. It sounds
at the
crazy.
Clippers. Okay.
At the Clippers. It's a lead. I'm not putting it in the app right now, and I don't know if I will, but it's here's the thing. New Orleans has been getting killed in second halves. Memphis in the third quarter, the Celtics in the third or the fourth, and the Nuggets was either the third or the fourth. I'm forgetting. One was the third, one was the fourth. Point is, they've actually covered 3 of the 4 first halves that they've played this season so far. Celtics. Clippers are 2 for 2, 2 for 4, rather. And with New Orleans, you have to get a kitchen sink game at some point, even though I know that they don't have a lot of kitchen sink on their roster right now. So this is more of a lean where I'm like, I feel like they could make this a game in the first half, which they did against the Spurs, which they did against the Grizzlies, and to some extent Boston. It's the second half where it all falls apart. Like there was a 39-11 quarter that they suffered already this season. Memphis had them 41-27, I think there was, and then the Celtics also shellacked them in either the third or fourth in their blowout where they won 122-90. If they do have a kitchen sink game, I don't think it's going to come in the next one where they play Oklahoma City at OKC on Sunday. And you could also say, hey, maybe it's not until Charlotte on Tuesday, but they've been a decent first half cover, 3 of 4. So my lean in this is for New Orleans to potentially make it interesting for a half.
I mean, I applaud you for taking the Pels.
It's a lean. It's a 1-star lean.
1-star lean. That's fair enough. I almost kind of say you should probably sprinkle, if you're going to bet it, you should probably sprinkle first half money line.
I might.
It's, even
they're beating the Spurs at halftime.
So there's two things here that I wouldn't like. There's no way to get me a bet on this game. I saw him up close and personal last night, and I feel confident at this point that I've got a pretty good sense of where teams are at from watching them, at least in that moment. Like, I don't try and be like, I saw that. That's the mistake I think a lot of people will make, is that, beat writers in particular will see a team and be like, this is their identity, or like they're feeling this way. It's like, no, they felt it that night when you saw them. And that was real, but it's also, you have to be with them multiple days to understand their patterns.
This happens a lot with draft evaluations. This is why so many people missed on Jarrett Culver. So
one thing that I will say is that is recognizable, though, from this team last night, they didn't. Whoever decided to change up that starting lineup, I'm assuming it was Willie Green, to put DeAndre Jordan and start him. Which, like, the reasons you do that if you're like, hey, DJ's like won a championship here, we're gonna honor the veteran by letting him get his moment starting against his old team. You do that in like game 62. You don't do that in game 5 when you're 1-3 coming in. Like, you, or 0-4 coming in. You don't do that. Yeah. You don't do that. Starting Fears at point guard. There was a sequence where Fears brings the ball up and Zion has his man sealed, and fears like redirects him. And you just watch Zion being like, okay, kid, sure, I'll come over here. And then he clears him out, and Zion's like, okay. And like, and that's like the whole attitude that Zion had, which is like, sure, man. And that was the whole team, except for not Colin Sexton, except for Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole was like the only person that was like, what is wrong with you guys? When Jordan Poole is the adult in the room,
champion,
there are problems, right? But Jordan really, I mean, to his credit, I am very serious about this. Like, Jordan was the one last night that was like, why are you guys not care? Emesi cared a little bit, but the rest of that team is very checked out. And that's like, our coach is going to get fired. This whole team's going to get blown up. So I can't bet into them. On the other side, under no circumstances am I betting on the Los Angeles Clippers. This reeks of a Pelicans get their first win over the season. 124-108. Kawhi Leonard minus 19. Like, it reeks of that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I get why at least this is the league. I think it is worth at least talking about. Fiddle, let's get some more market work here. Let's talk a little bit about what you like for your 2 stars and your 1 stars.
My 2 stars is going to be Boston Celtics plus 2.5.
Okay.
This is an overcorrection of home court, like we talked about for Phoenix and Utah, probably an undercorrection of home court. We've already had this matchup this season, and we were minus 5.5 in Boston. And it took a 12-point advantage in the 4th quarter for the Fugazi 76ers, as they're being called in the chat right now, to come back and win this game by 1 point. A 42-point 4th quarter and plus 12 in the period to win this game by 1 point. They have had miraculous comeback after miraculous comeback, and that's against the Hornets. That's against the Wizards. That's against the Celtics in one spot. So just like I can't get to where we are promoting the 76ers in power ranks, which is clearly happening here, or downgrading the Celtics because they've had some losses early in the season when they were recouping to a brand new team in so many parts. If we're going backcourt versus backcourt strength in this one, this is one where you might be able to rely on the Celtics, right? If Maxey and Edgecombe are the light and shining armor for the 76ers squad, which is awesome, and they're fun to watch, and I get it. I actually think this is a spot where we trust Jaylen Brown, who's clearly well recovered off the hamstring stuff. Trust Derek White, play in with Peyton Pritchard. And so I actually think this is a clear Celtics spot. We're seeing it in line movement 3.5 down to 2.5. We even have some 1.5 showing up in the market. I think it should be that 1.5. That's where I think the line should move based on home court advantage flipping. And then you have the slight revenge factor. I'm not a big revenge factor player, but I do think with a Boston versus Philly matchup that might be a little more present than another spot. So my 2 stars is going to be Boston Celtics plus 2.5.
Yeah, this made my final round of cuts. I'm going to stay away from it just because to me there's 2 teams. There's the team with Joel Embiid and there's a team without Joel Embiid, and the team with Joel Embiid is just like, hey, Joel can play pretty well, but then they're like a normal squad, and then Joel's minutes run out, and then they turn into this chaos machine, and it's unsustainable. I agree that it's unsustainable, and I do agree with you. This is too much of a market move. I've got power rated at minus 0.6, which is probably light. I would still have Sixers like 2 here if you ask me to kind of spot check it, but I think it's I think the number is heavy. It's also within a possession. That's the biggest reason I didn't want to get in on this is, I do want the out here of the Sixers pull off another, like they're down again, they do it again, and then they sneak out like they go up 3, and then the Celtics miss, and then they're fouled, and that's 5. The one possession, the key number that you've talked about, that 4-point number, I think actually matters here for me not wanting a part of it. So look, Matt Mitchell rule, they probably take a look at the Celtics for
money line.
I don't know if I want to get on them as a result of Cup. I will say this, that if you're going to look at these games, anybody that you really like as a favorite, or either way, if you like a side, you need to then look at least what their cup odds are. Because if you think they're going to win this game, then they're going to win 25% of the games that they need to win in order to get out of the cup and make it into the tournament. And once you're in the tournament, that's good value. So at least consider looking at those. This last one I'm very curious about. Tell me about this one, because I was surprised to see this one pop up even from you.
Bounce back
I am a Raptors truther. So Raptors plus 7.5 is going to be my final spot on the card. Now, obviously, Donovan Mitchell is questionable, and we'll see Donovan tweet hashtag let him know, and that means he's in. And it's the only player tweet that the market actually reacts to, because he will tweet it when he's active and he does not tweet it when he is inactive. So before the actual injury report news comes out, the Donovan Mitchell hashtag let him know tweet will hit the screens. So I actually have not played it yet, but I very much plan to. So I'll track this in the action app if you're following me, like when it's go time for me. I think this is at worst the closing line here. So if we get Donovan Mitchell in, might pop up to 8.5 or 8 and then come back to 7.5. I've liked this Raptors team. Their downfall this season has literally been missing free throws. And so in a lot of their games, they just have a good chance at winning. And then they just miss too many free throws down the stretch and late. Missing Jakob Poeltl is certainly something to worry about, but it almost allows them to attack with speed. And that's the one thing that could slow a double big Cleveland team, is just trying to relentlessly push the pace. So I like the over 2, but I think I'm going to go Raptors plus 7.5 as my 1 star.
I can't deny it's a buy low spot. This one surprised me. So given how the Cavaliers played last season, I would have thought that they would have been absolute murderers after they lost games, because they lost so rarely and they won so consistently. I was like, oh, this is a bounce back spot. Cavs because like the Celtics when the Celtics were healthy under Maz, it was like an auto play. If the Celtics lost, just hammer them ATS next game. They covered every single time because they were just like, they would not tolerate that. They buckled down. Atkinson, though, under Atkinson, Cavs are only 8-10 under Atkinson ATS after a loss. I thought that was interesting. Like, it was not, I was expecting another number. This will lead into one of my bets, which is the over, however, in those games is 11-7, which is not a huge differential, but it is a little bit. It's a buy low spot on Toronto, who is under a lot of heat right now. I just, if they don't defend Fiddle, how are they going to cover this number?
So I actually think that's what I'm kind of selling on Cleveland with, because like missing Garland and missing Strus and missing Sam Merrill, who's also out for this game, the 3-point rate of Mobley and Larry Nance and having these other non-shooters shoot a lot is just like, I feel like they're kind of giving away some possessions and playing low IQ basketball in some of them, because they're trying to remain so true to the style. So like Lonzo has not been shooting well at all. Larry Nance is taking too many threes. Mobley's taking a lot of threes too. So I'm like, oh, okay, let me kind of sell on that, and that they're trying to still play full on Cavaliers brand of basketball as if they still had Strus, Garland, Sam Merrill, a fully healthy DeAndre Hunter, and like they have all these snipers to surround their drive-in kicks. They don't have that right now. So they're like putting up a lot of threes, and I actually kind of disagree with it. So that's where I think their offense kind of tails off and gives the Toronto Raptors, who are missing a big, like a little bit of a gift here. If that continues, then yeah, I like Toronto.
Okay, this is a bet you're gonna win. I'm gonna be annoyed when you win it. That's what's gonna happen. This is gonna happen, and you're gonna be annoyed. Okay, my 2-star and 1-star on the night are gonna be. I'll pull them up here. So I like Cavs Raptors over 236.5. I'm kind of going against the Fiddle's cap here. Here's one on top of. So we've got the cup games with the pace factor that leads towards the over. We've got after Cavs take a loss, their offense tends to bounce back. The over is 12-6-1 since Darko took over, when the opponent's pace is 105 or more. The Raptors don't get back. They don't. There's a lot of conversation in Raptor circles about hey, we need to peel back on the defense. Don't have to be quite so aggressive. If you're a coach, you want to give something at least 10 games a sample. You want to see like, this is always this is such a tension point with teams when a coach is like, we're going to do this. And the team's like, okay. And then they lose with it. And the players are like, why don't we not do that? And the coach is like, why don't you do it right? Right. There's this debate of what if we can't, you can't do this correctly. And the coach being like, well, we can, we're just not executing it correctly. Like if you do it right, this will work. The ball pressure concept. I checked in on Brandon Anderson, by the way, with his confidence in the Raptors that talked me into their over. And his comment was, this is all part of the plan. Now they'll be forced to make the roster adjustment. He really is imagining a world where they bench Emmanuel quickly for Jamal Shed. And God bless Brandon Anderson for believing the NBA works like that. I'm going to take Cavs Raptors over 236.5 here. If the Raptors win this game, if this goes under and the Raptors win, it would be diametrically opposite to pretty much every indicator that we have from a small sample. I agree it's a small sample of games, Fiddle, but I just can't get this is not only is it like, oh, they played some great teams. It's like stylistically, they just cannot execute what their scheme is. And I feel like Cleveland's just going to tear them apart. This is not a team that's going to, I loved them versus the Rockets. I was like, oh, this is a great spot for them. This is awesome. This is a terrific spot for them with the ball pressure versus a team with no point guard. And Houston dropped 140 plus on them. That's concerning. That is bad, but I also might be buying in a low point here, or a high point here. Like this might just be too high, but it's not high enough for me. I'm going to go ahead and take the over.
Yeah, I feel like in 2 weeks from now, we might be seeing consistently totals in the mid 240s and low 250s. Like, I don't know what is too high right now. And if the Raptors win, they're probably putting up 130.
Drew Holiday. I almost went with Tyrese Maxey PRA. Bryan had that as his 2-star. Yes, was 3-star was Tyrese Maxey points. I've got Drew Holiday over 26.5 PRA. He's gone over this and breezed over it in all 3 games. Just has absolutely flown over this number in each of those games. Jamal Murray is questionable for tomorrow night, which means that Drew will have less of a defensive load because if he's out, they are likely to start Bruce Brown in his place. And Bruce just isn't as much of a threat, which means Drew can kind of play a little bit looser and get out in transition. Drew's like he's just doing stuff on that team. He's still very good. Drew's still a very good player. And so, especially with a Denver team whose half-court defense, it's really funny. Last year, their half-court defense wasn't bad, but their transition defense was wretched. Their transition defense is much better this year, but their half-court defense is back to being terrible. So I think Drew will be able to go ahead and get over this number at 26.5. I will play that as my 3-star. We will hit your questions, or 1-star rather. We will hit your questions on Open Run here in just a second. If you got bets that you want to give out, if you got your bets, give them at youtube.com/The Action Network. If you're watching on Twitter, which a lot of folks are, head on over to the YouTube page, youtube.com/The Action Network, and you can put your comments on. I can't get to the comments on Twitter. So in our special interface. So go ahead and do that. But I will go ahead and run over our best bets before we give out our Cup MVP bets of the night for DraftKings. I've got Bulls Knicks under 235.5, Cavs Raptors over 236.5, Drew Holiday over 26.5 PRA. Bryan Fonseca likes Tyrese Maxey over 28.5 points. Lauri Markkanen over 24.5 points, which he is deeply worried about because it is like everyone is like, why is this number? And his 1-star lean is Pels first half plus 6.5. Michael Fiddle likes Lakers plus 2.5, Celtics plus 2.5. Raptors plus 7.5. It's a dog night for Michael Fiddle. Phil, let me know if any of those numbers have moved while we've been talking, if you get a second. All right. Let's talk about for our DraftKings special of the night. I do want to ask you guys, we're going to do Cup MVP because Cup starts tomorrow. A lot of game theory opportunity for Fiddle, a lot of basketball sides for Bryan Fonseca, a lot of opportunities here. If you listen to all of our preseason stuff, the future Jays and I found Luka Doncic at like a ridiculously, I think it was like 40-1, stupid number. And we went ahead and grabbed that. So I got a position on Luka. I'm going to add some more here. Bryan Fonseca, what is your DraftKings NBA Cup bet of the night?
Cade Cunningham, MVP, plus 2,800.
Okay.
On DraftKings right now. There are tastier options, but I wanted to get one in a spot that made a lot of sense because they play in a group with the Nets, which is where they start. And obviously that should be winnable. If they lose that game, then forget it. This is probably not going to happen. But you have the Nets in this group, and then from there you have Boston, you have Orlando, you have Philly. It's going to be interesting to see where those numbers pop. Because it feels like from that group, you would think it'd be Orlando, and I actually have a preseason ticket on Paolo to win MVP for this, which I don't feel as good about now, but maybe Orlando gets it together over the course of this, NBA Cup tournament. But Cade here, because as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to be backing a team, just look at their best player for MVP also, because that's typically who's going to get it done. In Detroit, there's like a clear number one, and there's not even like a number two. Like you have to go down the list to find somebody else who would be like absolutely the driver of this team for this. Whereas I don't think Boston has enough. Brooklyn obviously doesn't. And then with Philly, Tyrese Maxey is obviously a wild card for this. And I think Orlando, as I mentioned, Paolo, and you could even talk yourself into Franz, who's playing an efficient, like he's playing well so far this year. He's playing efficient. He's hitting his jumpers. But Cade, to me, like if we're talking about teams that we think are pretty good, because this hasn't gone to like the absolute best teams, but to your point earlier, Matt, from earlier, it hasn't gone to like a supreme underdog. Like the team who wins this typically doesn't just miss the playoffs. You know what I mean? And I think with Detroit, they're a team that, at least for me, 6th seed last year, I expect them to be in the top 6 again in the East. And it feels like this could be a Cade Cunningham coming out party, a number that I think could look better over the course of this tournament. So I don't mind it at all at plus 2,800. Just a swing, long shot swing on him to win MVP.
Don't mind it. It's interesting just because of like, I feel like the Celtics are going to lose, or the Pistons are going to lose the Celtics in the Cup, and I'm going to be annoyed. I love this team, and I just like feel like that's like a situation right for them to annoy me with that.
I could see that.
I also, it is kind of interesting to ask the question of if the Magic come out of this group and they were to make a run, how confident are we that Paolo wins MVP over Franz?
He'd be the favorite.
Yes.
It wouldn't be by as much as maybe people think, but because like last year, for example, or the year before last year, when it was Lakers Pacers, LeBron was like minus 115. Halliburton was like plus 110. This is like before the actual game. And then everyone else was like, even Anthony Davis, like far away at that point. I don't think it's going to be that dramatic, but I think Paolo will be the favorite. And he has the pathway to putting up counting stats, and it's likelier that he takes the late game shots that matter.
Okay. How much do we think Cup MVP is tied to group stage games plus the end of like the last two, the championship and semi-championship? Or is it just the last two games?
Oh, it's just the last two games. It's on the last game.
Yeah. Okay. So then it would be Paolo's going to be the favorite, but it's going to be how those two go. And it's tough to hedge in those situations where you're like, I need the team to win. So then I need to pick off Franz and someone on the other team potentially to properly hedge this. You're getting into messy waters.
The market
ride it if you get there.
Yeah, the market is 20 at DraftKings. Paolo's 25-1 and Franz is 30-1. So it's a $5 difference. So
it was a bigger difference in the preseason when I got Paolo.
Yeah, I agree with Fiddle that you should just write it. Don't even worry about hedging it.
Yeah.
All right, Fiddle, what's your MVP pick for the Cup?
Yeah, we're talking about Paolo's odds. We're talking about Cade's odds. Giannis is 35-1.
How?
This is legitimately the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I rarely play these like future long shots. I'm holding a Giannis 35-1 ticket here. Their schedule goes home versus Chicago. And I know Chicago's been a surprising team, but I'm not going to like their Bucks are going to be 6-point favorites in that game or whatever. So home versus Chicago, home versus Charlotte are the first two. So like I said, trying to pick off good spots in schedule. Then they get the Miami Heat. Miami Heat have been pretty good, but that's a Miami Heat 3 games in 4 nights spot. So Milwaukee has a significant rest advantage in that spot in Miami, and then at New York Knicks. So their last like hardest game and their really lone difficult cup game where they might not be priced as a favorite is in New York. And so when you go to that game, the Bucks might be 3-0 with like a plus 22 in the point differential. And then we get to, you're at the Knicks. If the Knicks have slid in any of the games, and the Knicks don't look great right now, but if the Knicks have slid in any of the games, it's like, hey, all you need to do is not lose by 15 here. So it's going to be one of those spots. We had this last year with the Orlando Magic visiting the Knicks, and they needed to not lose by 37 in that game. And the Knicks actually went up 37 at one point and then took their starters out. It was almost like a we know what the number was too. So FU Magic, and the Magic crawled back and lost by 22, and they were good with it and they moved on. But this is a clear Bucks spot. They've been there twice already, and they start with Chicago and then Charlotte, and then 3 and 4 for Miami. It's just like, why is this 35-1? There's no other choice for MVP if the Bucks make it. Like, he's obvious, his usage is just insane. His condensed stats, like 36 and 16 is like what he's averaging, or something crazy. In that game against the Bulls to start out, I'm going to be looking for the Bucks because, like you said, they allowed dunks and shots at the rim. The Bucks are shooting 80% at the rim right now. This is insane what they're doing. And so they play a very high IQ dunks and threes type of style too. So give me the Bucks to make it, and I'll take Giannis 35-1. I like, screw any actual taking the Bucks, because if they get there, Giannis is the MVP. So give me Giannis 35-1 MVP, repeat MVP champion.
I love this. I bet it as soon as we talked about pre show, and we'll put it in the app. Absolutely love it. It's terrific. How about this? For me, I'm gonna go. Look, Fiddle's on the Celtics tomorrow, and Bryan's on Cade Cunningham. I'm gonna go ahead and take Tyrese Maxey and say that the Magic continues. Now we already. I will again. The other guy that we got, I got Luka 40-1. Like Wemby's 40-1. How? I understand
his group is
brutal.
Okay, here's the thing though.
Giannis's group ain't easy either. So.
Here's the thing with that group though. You're like, Victor Wembanyama is not locked in the room with the Warriors and the Rockets and the Nuggets. The Rockets and the Nuggets and the Warriors are locked in a room with Victor Wembanyama. Okay, like that man is a kaiju, and so you could deal with that, but I will also just take Maxey here because it's 60-1. This is a very momentary thing. It's a short sample thing. Can the Sixers play out of their minds for another month? Yeah, they can do that. And if they get into the cup situation, I will like them a lot because of the energy that they're playing with. It's the young guys. They are connected. I like the opportunity. I'll take them at 60-1. Before we get out of here on Open Run, did want to say, tell me you didn't just say that. Asked, any thoughts on the Indiana Atlanta under 230.5, missing Trey with Indiana's injuries? I bet Indiana on the money line. I think this is like the kitchen sink they get right versus a Hawks team that is just woefully unprepared. And the numbers without Trey, they can't score. To your point, they have like a 103 offensive rating without Trey on the floor. Now, those numbers aren't a great way to evaluate what the full game is going to be like because he plays so much with other starters. But I do think that looking at the under is not a bad look there. Fiddle, what's the market done on Indiana Atlanta under?
It's gone up. I think that stuff is like very priced in. So if we know the injuries well ahead of time, the market's going to adjust very well. The thing I've noticed with the Hawks is stylistically they'll play very much the same. And without Trey, they don't outlet to a point guard, right? Like you don't grab a rebound and then find your guy and then he's throwing some fingers up as he's dribbling the ball. When you have Trae Young without him on the court, it's just like Dyson Daniels grabs rebound, goes. Reese Shea grabs rebound, goes. Jalen Johnson grabs rebound, goes. So they actually do that Indiana Pacers thing where they're very fast, like past half court and into their offense, and anyone could be the de facto point guard. So I actually would look over, if anything, on this game. If you want the under, just wait until post. Wait until right pre-tip because I think the number is going to go up.
There you go. So to go over our DraftKings NBA Cup specials of the night, Bryan Fonseca likes Cade Cunningham to win MVP. Michael Fiddle likes Giannis Antetokounmpo at 35-1 to win MVP, and I'll take Tyrese Maxey at 60-1 to win MVP at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Thanks for joining.
We all like Wemby also.
Yeah, we all like Wemby. Who doesn't like Wemby? Thanks for everyone for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure to go to youtube.com/The Action Network and hit the like and subscribe button. We will talk to you guys again on Sunday night for the Future Jays. That show will be up later that night. We can't record that one live. And then we're back at it next week. My thanks to Michael Fiddle at Fiddle's Picks, Bryan Fonseca at Bryan Fonseca MY, my producer David Payne, Gifford Gould on the video side. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.